It started as a regular December morning in a small town where people were rushing to get their last-minute shopping done for the holidays. The Walmart parking lot was packed, filled with cars, shopping carts, and the sound of Christmas songs playing softly in the distance. Everyone seemed busy, a little stressed, trying to stretch every dollar to make the season special for their families. Among the crowd walked a man named David, a quiet, ordinary-looking man who carried something extraordinary in his heart that day. He wasn't rich or famous, just someone who believed that kindness had more power than money ever could. David had come to Walmart with a simple thought that had been growing inside him for weeks. Every year he saw people standing in long lines, some putting items back because they couldn't afford them, others holding layaway receipts with hope and worry mixed in their eyes. Layaway was their lifeline, a way to buy gifts little by little, to give their children something magical. David had grown up in a family that struggled during Christmas, too. He remembered his mother crying quietly one Christmas Eve when she couldn't afford a toy his sister wanted. A stranger had stepped in back then and paid for that toy without ever revealing their name. David never forgot that moment, the warmth it brought, and how it changed the way he saw people forever. So that morning, he walked into Walmart not to shop for himself, but to do something that would remind the world that compassion still existed. He went straight to the customer service counter, where a tired-looking employee named Linda greeted him with a polite smile. "How can I help you today, sir?" she asked, expecting maybe a return or a question about an item. But David's next words caught her completely off guard. "I'd like to pay off some layaway balances," he said softly. Linda blinked, surprised. "You mean your own layaway?" she asked, trying to clarify. David shook his head. "No, I mean other people's, as many as I can." For a moment, she just stared at him, unsure if she had heard right. Then, realizing he was serious, she called her manager. Soon, a small group of employees gathered, curious about what was happening. David explained that he wanted to clear as many balances as his budget allowed, but he didn't want anyone to know it was him. He just wanted people to come in, find out their layaways were paid, and feel that unexpected joy that only comes from a miracle. The manager smiled, almost in disbelief. "You're about to make a lot of people very happy," she said. David nodded, pulling out his debit card. "That's the goal." One by one, Linda began pulling up layaway accounts on her screen, families who had put away toys, clothes, even basic items like winter jackets and shoes. Each total popped up: $42.17, $109.53, $278.60, and more. As the totals added up, David quietly told her, "Keep going." The numbers climbed higher and higher, but he didn't flinch. He knew this was exactly where his money was meant to go. After nearly an hour, when the final transaction was complete, he had paid off more than 50 layaway accounts. Linda's eyes welled up as she handed him the final receipt. "You just made Christmas happen for so many families," she whispered. David smiled, almost shyly. "I think they'll do the same for others one day," he said before walking out of the store, blending back into the crowd like nothing had happened. Later that afternoon, the Walmart staff began making calls to customers, letting them know their layaway items were ready for pickup. The reactions on the other end of the phone were priceless. One mother gasped, "Wait, what? Paid off? Are you sure?" Another man, who had been struggling after losing his job, burst into tears. "You're kidding. I was just trying to figure out how I'd afford it before Christmas." By evening, word started spreading through town. People posted on Facebook and local community pages, calling it the Walmart Christmas Miracle. No one knew who did it, but everyone was talking about it. The town buzzed with a kind of happiness that couldn't be bought. It was the kind that came from gratitude and shared humanity. One story stood out among the many that followed. A young single mother named Emily came to the store that night, holding her baby girl. She had been saving up for weeks to buy a few simple gifts, a stuffed animal, some clothes, and a small stroller toy. When she arrived, Linda greeted her warmly and said, "Emily, you don't owe anything. Someone paid it all for you." Emily froze, not believing it. "No, that can't be right. I still had $87 left to pay." Linda just smiled and nodded. "It's all covered. Merry Christmas." Emily's eyes filled with tears as she looked down at her daughter. "Who would do something like that?" she whispered. Someone with a big heart, Linda replied. Emily hugged her baby tightly and cried right there at the counter. That night, she wrote a post online saying, "To whoever paid for my layaway, you didn't just buy gifts. You gave me hope. I was feeling so lost this year, and you reminded me that good people still exist." Her post went viral locally, shared hundreds of times, filling the community with warmth and faith in humanity. Meanwhile, David, the man behind it all, quietly sat at home with a cup of coffee, scrolling through his phone. He saw the posts, the gratitude, the stories of people crying tears of joy. But he never commented, never revealed himself. He didn't need the recognition. Seeing that ripple of happiness spreading through his town was more rewarding than anything else. The next morning, one of the local news stations picked up the story. A cheerful reporter stood in front of the Walmart sign, talking about the mysterious layaway angel who had paid off tens of thousands of dollars in balances. The clip showed emotional interviews with customers, children hugging their parents, and employees describing how they felt being part of something so pure. "It restored our faith in kindness," one woman said on camera. You never expect things like this to happen, especially not in times like these. When David saw that segment, he couldn't help but smile. He thought about how the world had become so fast, so divided, and how small gestures like this could remind everyone that humanity still had light left in it. But the story didn't end there. The next week, people started paying it forward. One man donated gift cards to a local food bank. A teenager organized a toy drive at school. Families began leaving surprise groceries on their neighbors' doorsteps. Kindness had become contagious, all sparked by one quiet man who refused to let cynicism win. A few days before Christmas, David went back to Walmart. This time, he came just to watch. From the back of the store, he saw people laughing, hugging employees, and picking up their layaways with joy. He overheard one child tell his mom, "See, I told you Santa was real." That line made David chuckle softly to himself. He realized that maybe, in a way, he had been a little bit like Santa this year, not with a red suit or sleigh, but with a heart full of giving. As he walked toward the exit, an elderly woman accidentally dropped a bag near him. He quickly bent down to help her. She smiled and said, "Thank you, young man, you've got good manners." David just nodded politely. "Merry Christmas, ma'am." When he walked away, she turned to her daughter and whispered, "He looks like that kind man from the story on TV." David overheard it but kept walking, smiling quietly. He preferred the mystery. On Christmas morning, across that small town, dozens of families woke up to gifts under the tree, gifts they thought they wouldn't be able to afford. Children laughed, parents cried tears of joy, and everyone felt that warmth that only generosity could bring. David spent the morning visiting his mother's grave. He placed a small poinsettia flower on the headstone and said softly, "Mom, I finally understand what that man did for us all those years ago. I hope I made you proud." For a moment, the wind blew gently through the trees, and David closed his eyes, feeling at peace. Later, as he walked home, snow began to fall lightly, covering the streets in a soft white blanket. The town felt calmer, brighter, as if kindness itself had left a mark on every corner. David knew he couldn't fix every problem in the world, but maybe he didn't need to. All he needed to do was show people that one person, one simple act, could spark something much bigger than themselves. By the time the holidays ended, news outlets from across the state had shared the story. People began doing similar things in other towns, inspired by the anonymous Walmart donor. Strangers paying off other strangers, layaways became a wave of kindness that spread far beyond that one small store. Months later, when the snow had melted and spring arrived, David returned to Walmart again, this time for groceries. As he stood in line, he saw a young boy ahead of him hand the cashier a folded note. Curious, David watched as the cashier read it and smiled. "Someone just paid for your groceries," she told the boy's mother. The woman gasped in disbelief, tears forming in her eyes. "But who?" The boy grinned and pointed to a man walking away quickly toward the door. David couldn't help but smile. Kindness had found a way to keep going long after his part was done. It had become something alive in the community, a chain reaction of goodness. And that was all he ever wanted. That night, as he looked out his window at the glowing lights of the town, David whispered to himself, You don't need to be rich to give. You just need to care. And somewhere out there in the quiet streets of that small town, the echo of that kindness kept spreading, one stranger, one act, one miracle at a time.